Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. My name is Paul Anthony and today we're going to be reviewing another watch from my collection. This time up on the review block is the TUDOR Black Bay Bronze. Released at Baselworld 2016. I've owned this watch now for about 5 months and we're at the end of 2018. So keep on watching to hear my thoughts about this particular timepiece. So here we have it, guys, the watch itself on the wrist, the TUDOR Black Bay Bronze on the wrist. As you can see, there's a pretty substantial piece at 43mm. What we're going to do first is take a look at the box it actually comes in. So you can see the nice TUDOR logo with the crest in a nice kind of dark brown box there. So we're going to put that to the side. Once you're inside the box, you're going to be getting the kind of warranty card, some of the guarantee booklet and the worldwide shield. Here's to tell you how to use the watch, as it's a time only watch. Not really much going on there. And then we are going to go and see the box itself. So you can see that there is a nice black lacquered TUDOR box inside the brown box. Once we open this, you can see there that I've actually used the NATO strap. Here's the NATO strap, which is again kind of quite nice. It is important to note that it's not a traditional NATO. It has the spring bars actually integrated into the strap there, which I think kind of helps mitigate the depth of the case. The case itself is actually 14.5mm, which is what we'll touch on later. But as you know, if you had a double layered NATO there, you're going to be adding several extra millimeters, which is something that I'm kind of aggrieved with if you've seen my previous review on, for example, the Omega Seamaster Spectre, is that once you put that 15mm watch on a double depth of a NATO, you're really kind of protruding the top there. Lovely buckle. You can kind of see the TUDOR crown kind of or crest itself resonated into the buckle. The one thing I didn't really like about the NATO was the fact that it was relatively hard to kind of adjust the size here, as I needed to do so on my almost 20cm wrist. But there you go, guys. There is the watch itself, the box it comes in, and the spare strap, which has a little slot there at the front of the box. So now we're going to actually dive into the watch, some of the technical specifications. So here we have it, the close-up of the watch, the TUDOR Black Bay Bronze. So first off, what I'm going to do is just run through some of the vital dimensions of the watch itself. As many of you already know, I like to use these plastic calipers just so they won't damage any of the watch parts themselves. However, as a result, you'll probably guess that I'm only going to get these into about 1 to 0.5mm accuracy. However, for these purposes, it's going to be more than accurate. So anyway, we're going to jump straight into the watch diameter of the case itself, not including the crown, is 43mm, which is actually 2mm smaller than the original Black Bay. I've done a little bit of research around this, and due to the fact that copper isn't quite as strong as steel, even though this is a copper and aluminium composite, they just wanted a little bit of a larger case size for that structural integrity of the watch itself. If we look at the case to crown size, which is going to be, you know, across the case and into the crown, that actually has a diameter of 46.5mm. And one of the really nice things about the crown here is that you can see the TUDOR rose itself. So that's kind of one of the more vintage inspired elements of the watch. As we're at the side of the case here, you can see that it's got a relatively large presence to it, with that domed sapphire crystal. That brings the watch in at 14.5mm in height. We can kind of see here off the screen that we have the additional provided NATO strap, and you can see the perforated lugs, which allows you to change the straps a little bit easier there. Obviously you can do that with any additional aftermarket straps you get as well. One of the downsides of that strap itself is that it's 23mm in the internal lug size. You can probably get away with some of your 22mm straps, sorry, some of you SKX 007 and 9 users, so you could definitely get some more mileage out there. But if you're going to truly match the case size, and you're going to want a 23 mil, which kind of I've seen on some of the forums has been a bit of a deal breaker for people, and as that's not a traditional size in modern watchmaking, that could be a little bit of a bugbear for some of you. If we look at the actual lug to lug distance, this is 52 millimeters, which on the wrist, I have a relatively large wrist coming in at just under 20 centimeters, and for me this is one of the big cons that I'm going to mention at the end of the video, which is just the raw size of the watch, definitely taking it out of any sort of belief that it could ever be kind of anything but a very sporty, non-dressy watch. The one thing with the increased case size that I also would like to mention is that the difference between this and the original Black Bay is that they have the Arabic numerals 3, 6 and 9, which is very nicely accommodated on the slightly larger watch that probably wouldn't have been able to on the original 41 millimeter Black Bay itself. With respect to the weight of the watch, as many of you know, bronze is a relatively heavy metal, but as it's actually mixed in there with the aluminium or aluminum if you're on the American side of the pond, the weight is kind of reduced, where the original head only without the strap Black Bay was 79 grams, as where this one comes in at 94 grams. So now we've kind of gone around the case, we can actually look at the case back itself. This is not the bronze alloy, this is actually steel made to look like bronze and then PVD coated. So this is to prevent any sort of kind of patina happening on the back of the case that may have imparted like a green kind of oxidization stain on your wrist, as this even this little edge here, I have experienced a little bit of that oxidization on my skin. So getting inside the watch itself, we have the in-house Tudor Movement MT5601, which is a certified chronometer. The MT actually stands for Manufacture Tudor, for those who do not know. It has 25 joules, an impressive 70-hour power reserve. It has bi-directional automatic movement in there. It has a hack-in seconds hand, which for those of you who don't know, which is when you actually pull the crown out, the second hand stops itself, so you can then align, if you're a diver, you may be able to align it with your other dive buddies, or actually set it to a particular time that you know is dead on correct, or coordinate with some other friends as well. It has a silicone hairspring, which is actually kind of an advantage over the Submariner, the Rolex Submariner, the parent company, or the big brother of Tudor. This is kind of amagnetic, so it has a high resistance to magnetic fields, and there is a free sprung balance bridge, which is definitely going to help increase its shock resistance. So, you know, this in-house movement is an absolutely fine gem of micro mechanics, and for the price point of $39.75, you pretty much can't go wrong with that movement. If we go back to kind of look at the strap itself, we've already touched on a little bit of the NATO. This is a kind of aged calf skin here, where we can see there's some kind of crackling in the leather, which again ties into the kind of sporty, kind of aged nautical vibe, because, you know, as the watch is going to age, you've already got a pre-aged strap there for you. So the one thing about this strap is it is extremely thick. I don't know if you can see there are several like kind of bolstered layers. Again, this feels very kind of solid in the hand. We can see that the bronze is carried over to the Tudor buckle, which again for this particular watch is almost aged perfectly in line with the case itself, which is nice, and you can kind of see the relatively chunky keeper as well. So I suppose what we're already getting to is, what do I think of this particular bronze? As I've mentioned before, it is a copper aluminium mix, so it doesn't age, say, as dramatically as some of the copper tin mixes or other metal alloy mixes that you've seen out there, especially with kind of the Panerais. You can see that it's kind of taken on some nice different colors, some browns, you know, kind of, you can probably see where different parts of my hair have differently touched the watch over time and caused different patina with different sweat marks, etc. and usage. Overall, I think it definitely does create a nice kind of vibe to the watch. I did buy this pre-owned So it already had a patina. In hindsight, I probably should have bought a brand new one to enjoy that patina process a little bit more dramatically, but it definitely has patinaed more over the lifespan of me owning the watch itself. If we then jump back kind of into the watch itself, the dial, as I previously mentioned, the free 6 and 9 with the additional space over the original case. One thing that's very kind of Tudor-esque these days would be the snowflake hand. So if I set this watch, you can see the hour hand is referred to as the snowflake hand for obvious reasons. We can also see that we have the Tudor shield, Tudor written out itself, as well as a designation that it is water resistant to 200 meters or 660 feet. And there's the COSC certification as well. As we're this close up to the dial, I'm going to stop talking now, and this is actually one of my favorite features of the watch. I mean, that's just a wonderful sound to hear that 60 click rotating, unidirectional rotating bezel, as this would be considered, kind of a dive watch that only go one way. But I think this is where, the watch could have failed, but has actually massively exceeded the experience I've had with different Rolex watches. And I'm not a huge sub fan, so I think again, this bezel and the way it clicks there is huge. Very nice tactile feel, a nice snap as you do rotate it around, so there's no mistake that you've gone one extra increment, and you can really hear it and feel it as well. So that's definitely a huge bonus for me. So anyway, there's around the watch itself. So I've taken you around the box it comes in, around the watch, some of the technical specifications, and now we're going to jump back into some of the pros and cons and who I think this watch would be ideally suited for. So now that we've covered the unboxing as well as some of the technical specifications of the watch, I thought, as I am an actual owner of this watch, I would go over some of the pros and cons that I've experienced whilst owning it, as well as finally providing who this watch may be good to or good for with regards to buying. So with respect to the pros, I've noted down here, obviously at a retail price of $39.75, it's actually pretty outstanding value to have an in-house caliber that is ultimately backed up by the might of Rolex. It's also nice to get 2 strap options included with the watch. Again, talking about the in-house movement with the 25 drill movement, 70-hour power reserve, bi-directional, hacking, seconds hand, silicon hairspring, free sprung balance bridge. All of these things are pretty awesome for the price point. Great depth rating at 200 meters, and it will probably go to more. Also really like the functionality of the bezel. It really has got that really nice tactile click, which I'll probably mention in this video, as well as just being a great kind of understated, large, chunky and in charge tool watch. With respect to the cons, running straight into that, I actually do feel it is a little bit too large for me. At 43 millimeters and a case depth of 14.5 millimeters, including the sapphire crystal, dome sapphire crystal, I think this wears a little bit too large for me. I am a lot of the time in a dress cuff, and I'm not sure if you can pick it up there, but it would be almost impossible to get under my dress cuff there. That kind of leads on, I mean, that's the only real con I have with the watch. I just feel it is just too large of a timepiece. Even though my wrist is almost 8 inches, I still feel it's relatively large. I know, as many of you know, that I did get into watches originally because of vintage Omegas, such as 36mm Seamasters that were probably only 7-8 millimeters in depth. So this is obviously, volume-wise, probably 3 or 4 times greater the size on the wrist. And one other little con I didn't like as well, because of my larger wrist, I had to adjust the NATO from the buckle end, or the tang and buckle end, which is actually really finicky. So I think they could have made that a little bit easier. I know we've got the perforated lugs here to make strap changing easy. However, it was a real delicate operation to work that on the NATO. So who is this watch actually good for? I bought this in the springtime and spring leading into summer of 2018, and I did actually wear this quite a lot over the summer, whether it was at a baseball game, going to the beach, at the swimming pool, kind of to and from golf. I thought this was a great watch. However, now we've approached kind of the winter months here in Philadelphia. I'm actually filming this at the end of 2018, probably being released into early 19. I think this really kind of falls a little bit flat on its face for my personal usage during the colder months, just because it doesn't really fit under a dress cuff as easily, which is something that I'm probably going to wear most days, especially business days. Obviously, the only other thing I could think about, if you're someone who's looking into getting a bronze watch, is getting a Patina. I bought this already, probably a year old, so already taken on that Patina. Probably in the secondary market, you're going to get it for about $1,000 less, probably around the $3,028 to $3,200 level mark. I would personally say it's worth paying the extra to go initial retail to kind of take it through your own patina journey, from kind of box fresh with that really, I've actually seen one brand new with that really high kind of yellow gold, kind of high luster, all the way through to where we can see it's taken on kind of a deeper patina. So obviously if you're someone who doesn't want to watch the patina, doesn't really want a large watch, want something that's a little bit more dressy, this isn't the watch for you. If however you're looking for a watch that's somewhat maritime inspired, will take on a patina, and you don't mind larger watches, then this is probably going to be a great fit. So with all of that being said, there's a lot of ifs, ands and maybes with that watch. I'd love to hear your comments and questions below on other bronze watches that you think are a great fit or a great option for people to buy, other Tudor watches that you may think are a good buy, and other watches that you think may be a better first time watch purchase, or how this may fit into your watch collection itself. With all that being said, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, because we have videos coming out all the time around not only watches but other men's lifestyle pursuits such as cigars, suits, shoes, travel and much more. With all of that being said, my name is Paul Anthony and I'll see you next time.